This podcast is a part of the More Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Leader Podcast by Pattern Talent, where we interview great leaders and we seek to understand leadership. I'm Brad McDonald.
And I'm Taylor Jessup, and we really hope that you enjoy this episode. Man, and we are back. Another episode of the Daily Leaders. Super excited to be here. Amazing guest today that I think will be absolutely fantastic. As always, if you're a fan of the Daily Leader, but your mother, your father, your sister, your brother is not, we ask for you to reach out to them and say, hey, you should check these guys out at the Daily Leader, and maybe just jump straight towards getting the Daily Leader podcast tattoo. It's always a good option. You could get that shaved into your head if you would like. All those things are great. In the meantime, like, subscribe, hit us up on our email list. Check out our group coaching, which is an exciting new platform that Brad and I have going on. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah, Brad, you're looking like you want to say something. I don't like you speaking. This is my part of the podcast, but I will allow it.
Gosh, that's terrible. No, I wasn't going to say anything. I just forgot. I forgot about that. So that was a great reminder. And I appreciate you bringing that up and mentioning that.
Well, it's always there. If you are looking to grow and develop yourself in a challenging program where you'll see results in yourself and your team around you, I'd encourage you to check it out. More information in the show notes. But enough about us, because we have an amazing guest today, Bradley. So would you do me the privilege and pleasure of introducing our guest today?
I sure will. And I'm really excited and I'm very grateful today that we're joined by Dr. Steve Wilke. Originally from Southern California, married to his beautiful wife, Rebecca, for 43 years. And we like to emphasize that number. He's a father to Ryan and Jared, who after 36 years in business, they like their dad and they work with him. And I think that that's something really exciting to celebrate. And that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about getting to know Dr. Wilke. He has a PhD in clinical psychology, and he focused that on some interesting things, organizational, marriage, and family systems, which we're hoping to get into a little bit today. He's the founder and the clinical director at the Family Counseling Center, and he's a licensed marriage and family therapist there. He's been doing that work for over 36 years. He's also a founder, speaker, and leadership consultant for Lead On University, where he's been the founder for 30 years. He's the author of The Leading Edge, Corporate Family Matters, and Revolutionary Leadership, along with his wife, Dr. Rebecca Wilke. And he's the creator of the Corporate Family Survey and the Developing Emotional Competence Questionnaire. Lastly, he's just an all-around good dude. He's very funny. He's got a great sense of humor. And so today, it's going to be difficult for us to stay on topic. I'm not going to lie. This one's going to be a roller coaster, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And there's going to be a lot of incredible insight along the way, not only into who we are as people, but how we can be more high-performing and profitable leaders, not only on the financial side, but also to the other people in our lives. So, Dr. Wilke, welcome to the Daily Leader. We're really excited that you're here with us.
Well, I'm really excited. I woke up this morning excited until we got to that intro. And I remember being the youngest guy before you guys, I think before your parents were born in like 83. I'm from the 1900s. So it was 1983. I had this couple. So I must have been 23 or 24, and they were in their 80s. And I didn't know what I was doing. Just to walk back, you gave me a panic attack to my office. And then when you read all this stuff off, I just thought, now I'm the oldest guy. I've got these two guys who are younger than my own kids. And I'm just like, I've stayed too long, wow. So anyway, guys, thanks for having me. I love to talk about things that matter, and certainly leadership matters. And I think the way we three define leadership really matters. I'd say it has eternal implications. What can be more fun and more important than that?
Let's go. Yeah, no, it's well said. It's well said. And hey, to be fair, we have no idea really how old you are. I mean, we could do the math, 43 minus something, But for all I know, Steve, today you're looking like you're 27, man. So, and with your spunkiness, for those who weren't here pre-recording, man, Steve made me laugh like 7 times, which is a new record. Our other co-host, sometimes Shane Kuiper, has made me laugh 3 times.
Guys, on your epitaph, not that I'm just going to take over the show. I'm going to forget whose show it is. I did do radio with Rebecca for 20 years, drive time. So you might have to remind me, Steve, this is our podcast and you're the guest. But it's
You're the hero. You're the
Yeah,
hero.
we see it the other
Is your
way.
role.
We see it the other way. Today is day O Steve. That's what today is. This
okay.
is your pod, man.
All
This is
right,
your pod.
Dale, Steve. I get the
Any
key to the Leader podcast.
yeah,
Now,
any last
I do
Oh,
want to
go for
say
it.
though, even though it is Deo Steve, this first segment, Steve, you really do belong to us here.
Mm,
And we're going to take you to some places, to some paradoxes, to some places of tension that you don't want to go. Isn't that right,
it's true.
Taylor?
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask before you said that, which is well said. I was gonna say, Steve, any last words, for our viewers before we throw you in the ringer? But I think
So
you
I've
just
got,
throw them in. Yeah,
there's the body language.
yeah, you
Let's
can.
rock and roll. Let's
I
do
try
this.
and do this. Yeah, I cross my arms so my arms look bigger for all the
They
comments on the
they
YouTubers.
do.
Thank
It's
you.
why
Yeah.
you guys are. Yeah, now he's flexing.
It-
This
For you iHeartRadio listeners, this is why we drive you to YouTube. All right, you're mixed.
no, I was just going to throw Brad under the bus. Every other episode, Brad flexes his arms and starts walking backwards for all of our audience.
Steve, freaking Taylor is making me do 3,000 push-ups this month.
I did
He did
see
a
that.
push-up challenge.
Yeah.
So my arms are massive. My arms are
Flex.
literally about to, I like can't even function properly because
Yeah.
I don't even have 24 hours between the next time I have to do
It's
100
usually
push-ups.
the old guys that sit around and talk about their bodies and all that's going wrong, and you two
Uh,
30 somethings are bragging about how many push-ups you're doing for charity. Which I,
yeah.
by the way, I'm praying you through that. I think it's
Hey,
amazing. While I lay in bed and read my devotions on my iPhone, just want to let you know
we're
I'm
just
praying
doing
for you.
push-ups. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Only God
we
can
got
help us.
we have a group text message with the McDonald's, Brad and his wife and my wife, and Becca. I'm pretty sure she sent the text that just said, "Taylor, thank you. I didn't want to have to say something to Brad, about his arms." So
They're
she's
getting a little
grateful.
thin.
Yeah, I'm grateful. We're all grateful. So on that note, speaking of, is it challenging to do 3,000 push-ups? We're going to play a challenging game with you, Steve. The game is called Slow Burn, and for our avid listeners that all have the tattoo, the background to the game is we started off this podcast talking about leadership and talking about how in leadership a lot of challenging things can feel like paradoxes, that they may have two things that both need attention, um, but we can't always give them both attention. So what do? This is where leaders have to step up and say, hey, we need a leverage up here or leverage down here. So slow burn stems from that. What we're going to do, Steve, is we're going to give you two maybe opposing ideas, maybe they're not, and you have to choose which one to use more important. Both is not a correct answer. And then briefly tell us why. It was supposed to be a rapid fire. It ends up, I'm thinking we're going to go down some bunny holes, rabbit trails, whatever you want to call them here, and kind of unpack that a little bit. Yeah, Brad, you can meditate on that for a while. So I'm going to give you two things. The easy ones would be like, who is the better football team, the Denver Broncos or the Dallas Cowboys? That's an easy one. All right, that would be an example of, you got to choose one. Tell us why. This is going to be different, and it's going to get harder as we go. Does that make sense?
I think I'm following.
Okay, the only other thing you have to know about the game is there's a point system that I keep in my own head, and I won't tell you what it is. There's just winners and losers, and I have the scoreboard. All right. So we'll try this off. Slow burn number one. I wish we just need a little smooth jazz music. Maybe they can put that in here because I like the idea. All right, what is more important in leadership, Steve? If you had to choose one, all right, what is more important, being or doing? The way I'm being or what I am doing?
Doing. Because at the end of the day, leadership in business is about outcomes and results, and being's a little bit too philosophical, and we got to get the tasks done. So doing is what's important. It's my job as a leader to make sure that we do what we need to meet the objectives that we've set.
Jeez, Steve just fired that off, Brad. I mean, a lot of people sit there for a minute. Steve's got his answer. He's ready to go. All right. Doing, because we need to accomplish, we got to get results. I like the answer, Steve. I'm going to assess 3.73 points for that particular question. Number two. All right. People or tasks?
People. Without, again, about results and outcomes, tasks are meaningless outside of the people that are doing them. So people have to do the right task, but between the two, since we're going to be polemic, we'll go with people. I wanted to put that out there so you could put that at the bottom, polemic, and you could put, I want to some infographics. All right.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We may have you back to just talk about that.
During our devotions, Rebecca said, "Say polemic on the pot." It's like my brother's a preacher.
Sure.
I
Okay.
give him weird words to say in the sermon, and if he does, he gets $50.
Yeah. Yeah, like the word rigmarole. See if he can get that into his next sermon. Just say,
Wait a second, rigmarole.
yeah, rigmarole. Write that down.
I knew you two. I knew you two were going to be a problem, guys.
This is what the people want. They want Steve uncut. We're giving him Steve uncut. All right. Moving on. Steve, you've done well so far. I like it because most people that have chosen doing would have probably also chosen tasks, but you chose doing and people. This is different and new. I like it. We're going to continue. All right. Relationships or results?
We're talking leadership and business results.
Okay. All right. Results because
at the end of the day, that's how we measure if we've met our objectives, if we're improving. And again, they're related, but if I have to choose which is the rules of the game, I'm going to go with results. The relationships, the results are most important, and the relationships have to be there for me to get the ultimate result. So, but I'll go with results.
4.3. I like it. Let me ask you a caveat.
You add 4.3, or is that my total sum score?
Steve, that is a great question that I can't give you the answer for at the moment. The game has rules. Nobody knows the rules. We just keep assessing points.
Okay.
Does that change if it's a nonprofit and it's not a business, or if it's something else? Does that change for you, or does it stay results over relationships? Is that contextual?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. I didn't know I was going to have to think. So your 501c, your nonprofits are full of a volunteer army. So that's a different population. And I think I think it makes it more important. I think you still got to have results. There's still a vision and a mission, but the relationships will follow if the results are there. So I'm going to stick with it. Yeah.
I like it. All right. We are cruising. Way to go. And last one for me, and then I'm going to kick it to Brad. You're not done, Steve. You're not done. By the way, I assessed an extra half a point there on that bonus question because that's not in there. Not everybody gets a bonus question. What's more important, values or vision?
Values.
Values because.
Well, vision in a statement is what do I set out to do? What I want to accomplish. I'll give a bonus. Mission is how we're going to get it done. So when I walk into a boardroom and I see this C.S. Lewis-esque thing on the wall that nobody, including the CEO, can read or remember, they don't have a clue because I always ask. I just like a one-liner that says, "What's my vision? What am I going to do? And my mission is how am I going to get it done?" Which brings me back to the topic. Values drive it. Values drive it all. So my values are not, to me, values are non-negotiable. Beliefs are negotiable. Values aren't. It's a part of culture that's not. And so, depending on who you are and what the topic is, values we don't debate. They just are.
We're unfolding Steve here. This is great. This is great. Brad, I'm kicking it to you.
This is the bio underneath the bio. These answers are how Steve's bio was built and formulated, right? And so that's why I love us getting to look into the life of a leader like this. Goodness or greatness, Dr. Wilke? Give us a rundown there.
Yeah, well, good to great. That said that good is the enemy of great. So I got to go with great. That's the goal, right? I was actually with a pastor of a very large church who will remain nameless. who says, "We don't try to be great, we just want to be good." And it was everything I could to be pastoral in my response, which was nothing because Rebecca was with me. We were doing an interview, and I was just like, "That just is not in my world." Or I did tell my sons raising them, "You do not have to be the best. You won't be, but you better give your best." So sometimes good is that's I had to outwork everybody because I don't have the IQ or the pedigree that Brad does. But you know, um, I think greatness should be the goal, and I think that's what God has for me. I'm great because of Him, and He wants me to be like Him. So greatness is in play, and good's not quite enough.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Don't worry about Taylor's scoring methodology.
Oh,
Okay, it's my
Steve,
turn.
I
It's
haven't cleared
my
only
five yet.
turn.
I haven't cleared five. I'm still sub five.
only no, it could be cumulative points. You don't know.
Well,
That could have been
Steve,
assessed per point,
you're
per
not always going
question.
to be the best, and that's
Steve,
just
what I want you to do is not take anything Brad says for truth and only listen to what I have to say.
All right.
That will benefit you in your life. Go for it, Brad. Continue.
culture or productivity.
Culture.
Tell us why.
Uh, of the three things that make up an organization, are what we refer to as corporate family. Culture is one of the big three. Productivity is a very important thing, but again, it follows uh, the goodness or the greatness of the culture. So, culture, which again, for an infographic, culture, values, beliefs, actions, and behavior patterns. It's a booger word. It's one of those things we could talk about. We could put the sharpest academics in a room, throw them the best food for a year, and they'd all three come out with different definitions. I'm a simple guy. Culture's three things. Values is one of them, and the values will, at the end of the day, drive the productivity.
Very insightful. Performance or recovery. Recovery can also be understood as rest.
I'm thinking of our chapter on generational leadership, and no boomer would ever ask that question because there's only one thing that matters. And I'm going to stay true to the final year of us baby boomers and rest. There's no rest for the wicked and the righteous. We don't need any. I don't know who said that, but no, I'm yeah. The rest is secondary, I think, but very important. We do have curricula on life balance, and so that's obviously being resilient. And Psalms 46:10, another infographic. Be still and know that I am God. There's a time to rest. Jesus took to the whether you're a faith person or not. Historically, I believe he was God. He took to the wilderness. He disappeared. People were like, where'd he go? He was just here, and he hid out. He was not afraid to leave the ministry, and more people to be healed, more people to be nurtured, more people to be led, more people to be blah blah blah. But he still found time with his father. So easy answer on that one.
Sales or profits. And I've heard you speak to this before, so I'm excited. I'm excited to hear you. Well, you tell us what you think.
I'm like Chuck Swindoll, who was asked a question about his latest book. He goes, "Oh, I said that." He goes, "No, you don't understand. I can change my decision and my opinions from day to day. So yeah, I don't believe that anymore." And when Papa Chuck says it, you got to go with it. Uh, you don't have any profit without sales, so I'm going with sales. You can spend your money any way you want, but without a sale, you have nothing. So I'm going to go with sales.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
For
It's good.
today, because tomorrow it might be different, right?
Every day.
Okay, last one, and this one, it feels easy when you hear it, but when you think about it, becomes one of the tougher ones. Tradition or innovation?
Innovation.
Ooh, that was quick. That was right. That was right on the forefront of the mind. There was not even, you know, let it
Boy,
rip. Why is that?
don't
Give it
ask
to
me.
us.
On a personal level, innovation. For the first time in my life, post COVID, I'm challenged. I got challenged. I'm challenged. It it was kind of easy for me, and in that it was hard work. I could outwork people, but the innovation, I got caught, and so that's a personal one. Tradition. oh boy, as a recovering Baptist, you know, it's the traditions of men have dictated so much of my behavior until I figured out it's being renewed inside. The whole ethic, the whole Christian ethic is from the inside out, right? It's you're renewed, you're transformed. Romans 12, or whatever. It's being renewed, and the whole tradition thing has really it's tripped people up, and me included. It took a lot of counseling, a lot of mentoring to get through that one. So I'm probably adding a lot more to that word than most people, but yeah, tradition is secondary to me in that polemic choice.
Mm, all right.
Rebecca will
Beautiful.
be happy. I got it in
Got it
twice.
in there again. Yeah, look
Steve,
at
that was
that.
excellent. You get extra points for using
Bing,
polemic twice.
bing. Yeah, total score of 374.3, Steve. Way to go. You are on the leaderboard somewhere. We can't
How
tell
does
you
that
where.
compare to the other guests, though? I mean, it's
You
all
know, Steve,
relative.
yeah, I'd love to tell you, but I can't. I'd love to tell you, but I can't. We're just going to leave it at that. It does compare. It does
All
compare,
right,
Steve. We
all
can
right.
say that. Well, no,
Strong
I
performance.
man, that game always gives us the opportunity to kind of like look inside a bit of, hey, how does Steve think? How does Steve perceive the world? How does Steve lead? Without having to ask those specific questions. So we really enjoy it, and I think it'd be great to give our listeners, a snapshot of who Steve is, how you would tell the story. So you don't have to go back to, hey, I was a baby and I was 6 pounds, 3 ounces. My mother's name was Julia. My father's name was Tom, whatever it is. But if you would give us the rundown, where we heard a little bit, where you're from, a little bit of your upbringing. What was that like? What was your professional career? How did you get into that? What are you doing today? Just so our listeners can really connect with you, because you've got a ton to offer, man. So give us the scoop.
So I was born in the 1900s, as I said before. So I've used that line twice. I like that line. I'll probably use it again. It's funny. I think it's funny. Uh, so born into a Baptist family, just to let everybody know. So that's for those listeners that may not be faith based. That's kind of the Protestant equivalent of being a Catholic. Bunch of rules that you should or shouldn't do, and little God sprinkled in so people were comfortable. And I'm criticizing my own people because I'm one of them. So recovered through the ministry of the Jesus People and a Calvary Chapel. Little light on some of the more important things like school and theology, but again, my people, so I can criticize them. Settled back into a now, of course, independent, non-denominational church, which is another word for evangelical church. Um, was a Christian my whole life. Went to Moody Bible Institute, which they will not like hearing for my first year as a missionary aviation theology major, so that I could go spread the gospel to the rest of the world. However, Rebecca is solely at fault for taking me out of the ministry because she met a pre med major in Southern California where we were raised and said something to the effect, "You better come home or else." And I evaluated, prayed, and fasted, and realized the ministry, Rebecca, I got to go with the blonde blue. So I went home and immediately went into psychology because everybody knows that airframe, power plant, aeronautics, being an engineer, they're very relatable to people skills. No, one is in a cockpit in the bush in the Amazon, no. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense. And we'll leave that for listeners to social media about. But went in kind of was a theology, psychology major. As soon as that decision was made, it was full, pedal to the metal, clinical psych. I outworked everybody because I just wasn't quite, as sharp as everybody in my mind. So just went after it, and I've been enjoying and passionate about people ever since. The joy of my life, um, and maybe we'll talk about this time or next time, has been helping people. I'm a people helper, psychological ministries, and so the joy is helping somebody that has maybe tripped or that has not had the same chance or whatever, understand they can make a difference and they can move forward and they can be a productive member of society and they can have an eternity that's awesome and wonderful. So I'm still passionate. I still love it. It still oozes out of me. And if you don't ask, I'll go ahead and offer it because I just get excited about people and and helping them. So leadership, uh, or the clinic. This morning I saw maybe 15 patients already, and the audience is irrelevant. So that's a word we should put on the graphics and say he does have a PhD. We fact checked it, but the irrelevance probably doesn't fit in that. So Nikki should not edit that out. Just leave it in for effect because it's just amazing. He says polemic and whatever. I can't even remember what I just said because it's not a word. But it's been whether I'm teaching, preaching, counseling, speaking. My whole deal is to try to help people avoid the pain that I had to face, and if they do, be productive moving forward and influencing others as much as possible.
Steve, thank you for sharing your story. That's awesome. I enjoyed learning a little bit more about you through that than what I knew in the past. I want to dig into one of my favorite things about interacting with you is that you've kind of been running this dual track. On the one hand, a successful psychotherapist, counselor with a clinical practice, and on the other hand, applying some of that same perspective in the boardroom and in the business world, and being able to see yourself succeed and thrive in both of those environments, I think is really interesting. So I'm curious whether it's in therapy or in your work as a consultant, what are some of the most common problems across both of those, domains that people come seeking help with? What do you see most often?
Yeah. So my role as daddy, which comes with my age, pastor, priest, uh, doctor, all of those roles, mentor, consultant. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to somebody who's just had a panic attack or what's most likely the case, it's a CEO, CTO, CFO, CEO. So, some C level that's called me because they want to talk about their numbers, but really want to talk about their personal lives. I'm still dealing with people, whether it's their family of origin, where all three of us grew up in a family and it impacts us. We have blessings, we have burdens, right? So then there's the family of procreation, which we create, and we're never going to do that. And then we end up doing it again and we blow it up and we keep trying. And then there's the corporate family. Now, corporate family happens to be where you spend most of your time, right? That's where we spend most of our waking hours, like it or not. So most of us are working through the corporate family. And so to me, I might be the only guy on the planet. I always like to be the one and only because I'm not, I don't have that much on my CV, but I might be one of the few clinicians with the amount of hours clinically, the couch time, that also has kind of gone into the boardroom. And most of the time, I'm at the C level, the executive team, the management team, the top third of the top third of the country, the top third of the company, the organization, the corporate family, and which is where I like to start. And so, to me, the patient, the client, the person, whether it's an individual, a couple, or a family, or in leadership, a boardroom. I One of my first jobs was in a mental hospital. So the gig was I liked the shift from 11 to 7. Why? It paid double time. Rebecca and I we didn't have anything. And the deal was is if you called the psychiatrist who had the meds, he could med people up. If you called and woke him up, you're done. So the key was I had 30 beds. I'm 23, and I had to keep everybody in line. The cops are bringing in these 5150s. One acts out, they all act out, and I've got this. I can't even shave. I don't. I shaved, but I didn't need to, and so I'm just yeah, exactly. That's just a man beard. Yeah, I don't have it. It's as good as it gets. This is a week old. So I figured if I could handle ICU, there's no boardroom on the 80th floor in New York and Manhattan that could challenge me. And I was right. And so I just relish the crazy is probably not the right word or very respectful today, but the wilder the boardroom, or it was just, to me, it was almost sport and something I enjoyed. And so all of that to say, the worlds came together for me very naturally because it's people in systems in organizations that are banging, ricocheting, impacting each other. And leadership is my attempt to bring that individual, that couple, that family, that corporate family together so that they can get better each day. They can exceed their expectations, and they're always mitigating the midterm crises and dilemmas that all organizations face.
There's something that you wish everyone better understood about human nature or the human condition, like some core principle. You're like, if we could just grasp this idea, our perspective and our way of life would be significantly better.
Wow, man, good. This is like the polemic questions at the beginning of the game. Let's go back there. Yeah, all human beings on all 7 continents are fallible and we're lazy. So that means there's a lot of potential for leadership. That's why everybody wants to be an executive coach today. I mean, pre-COVID, it was not as competitive. Post-COVID, everybody that can't do anything else, you can name any industry, everybody's an executive coach now. So that's good. Uh, but the trouble, but the trouble is that we're all flawed, to answer your question, and we're all fallible. So I continue to be surprised at the mistakes people make, including me, but I shouldn't be. The other side of that coin is that we're all redeemable. Now, I don't mean necessarily in a theological sense, although I believe that. And I think still at Azusa Pacific, they believe that. I just mean that all people, but is that
50. I'm not, I'm not sure. We haven't.
okay to take a shot?
Yeah, there
Sorry
may
about
be
that.
some that aren't.
Infographics, they should put our colleges up there. Mine, they've never heard of. I think the college I went to is defunct. I think it's out of business. I don't think it's real. But the other side of the flawed and lazy, because I think that's people, so you got to know your audience, is that we're redeemable. Most people, and here comes a golden nugget, most people want to get better and improve, so they're redeemable. They can do better. An ex-con, chemically dependent, et cetera, et cetera. But the golden nugget in all of it is that even though we're flawed, even though we're lazy, and even though we can be redeemed, we all have free will and choice to do that. And so I like to fill in the gap, which is where the leadership comes in, because we're all influencers and we all can have an impact. So
I love that. I love that. Fascinating. I'm fascinated by. So I'm going to explore this. I'm going to go off script. I'm going to scare Brad. So I want to know. Yeah, sorry, Brad. I love going off script, Steve. It's my favorite thing because some of the stuff you just said is I think really important, right? So we're all lazy, all right, and we're all broken. And some people move from laziness to proactiveness, all right, and some people, I mean, I would say continue to be broken and maybe understand the extent of their brokenness. But what moves somebody then from laziness to productivity? Like, if that is the problem, if that's the hey, here's the human condition, what is in your experience, what takes a human and goes, okay, so I've been lazy, unmotivated, don't want to get my butt in gear, and gives them the switch? Because some people seem to have it, right? And maybe some people don't. Or am I misunderstanding that? Anyways, unpack that with me.
benchmarks and accountability.
Got it. So if
Speaking
I
my
can
language.
bench, yeah, I
Speaking my
know.
language.
You're
I'm just
leveraging
watching
into
you both
that.
going, dude,
It's like,
you're getting interviewed. You haven't, as wordy as you are, you're going to throw out 2 words and stare at us. No, benchmarks. We all need them. Doesn't matter who we are. Doesn't matter what level we've achieved. Elon's successful and stays out of trouble if he has somebody like me to go, come here. No, there's benchmarks. We agreed to them, and you're accountable to me. So you need both of those. You do not have improvement when you don't. So when you're let's just take something that's real world without names. When you're in media and you're a mogul and you have billions and you don't have accountability and you forgot all about benchmarks and you do whatever you want, you can do whatever's right in your own eyes. you get into trouble. We see it every day. Media makes billions, if not more, on it. So you have to have benchmarks in a corporate sense, in a leadership sense, we have to agree to them. But once we agree, we have to have accountability, or we don't get away from being flawless or lazy. There's no redeemable value there. So I believe strongly in that. It's in my life. I don't always like the accountability. I don't always like to hear my own stuff, but when it's true, it's true. And I'm just a dude. So it, it just works with people. So I may not be able to speak your language, but the principles I teach are true, which is why in 7 different Chinese languages, our courses have been translated and we get feedback in English they work, because I didn't know, but principle based leadership is cross cultural. So that's a whole nother thing. But I'll just keep going if you guys don't interrupt me, because I'm starting to get fired up.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I mean, yeah, this is what we're unpacking because I'm curious of, what that is. So we're saying, hey, benchmarks and accountability is a leverage to help somebody move from their own laziness to their own. I mean, the opposite would be productivity or engagement. Is that correct? I'm hearing that correctly?
Yeah, whatever, so you do a 360, or HR puts you on a performance improvement plan. But whatever the deal is, let's just say that your pecs are deteriorating and your biceps along with it, and let's just say theoretically push-ups would help. All right. So if you don't go public with what's the matter?
Don't
If
encourage him. Don't
not
encourage him.
if you're
Dr.
going,
Wilke,
you have to be accountable to however many you're going to do. Here's my accountability. I told you I was reading the Word of God. That's how I start my day, or I'm a maniac. Might be a felon at the end of the day, and I'm praying for you. But you have to be accountable, humor aside, to how many, and it's got to be public. So when I went to lose 35 pounds because I saw myself on video and said, "Who's Santa?" and they said, "It's you. We've been telling you." I spent a whole year saying I'm going to lose 35 pounds, and trust me, my audience, they're going to remind me next time they see me, dude, you not only lied, you got bigger. So I'm not making fat jokes about anybody else. I'm talking about me, so it's okay. I'm just saying I wasn't showing up without a loss of, so it's got to be public. All right. And you got to be accountable to the benchmarks, wherever they are.
And by public, you mean I can't just be accountable to myself. Does it have to be, hey, I need to be accountable to the world, and put this on social media? Or can it be, hey, I'm accountable to Steve because Steve is my coach. He's my, leadership consultant. He's my whatever. Is that enough accountability? Or are you saying, hey, the more accountability, the better?
I'm saying you definitely, absolutely have to be accountable outside yourself, or nothing changes. And the more public it is, the more you're going to be inspired and motivated to change.
I like that. That is interesting. We did do a push-up challenge recently where actually yeah, interesting. Just started off. Brad hates it. Started off with a couple of people and it turned bigger in public. And I know that I have a goal that I do have to hit within the next 5 days, and I'm behind. So I got to catch up. I'm sure you can tell from my physique right now, I am behind. It makes sense. But, like it did give me the clear benchmark of I'm either going to hit this or I'm not. And I'm going to have to be accountable to other people to say, hey, okay, dang it, I dropped the ball. Let's do it again. Month 2, Brad, and we're going to go for 5,000 push-ups or whatever. So I like that. I want to. We're going to pivot just slightly in this next question, but uh, so something that might deteriorate at that is the idea that, hey, if I'm unhealthy as a person, maybe I lie or manipulative, or I have whatever kind of structure that I've created for myself.
You're
Like
a narcissist. That's probably
I'm a
so. Yeah,
narcissist.
yeah, yeah.
Sure, sure. My wife would not necessarily probably disagree with that. But if that is the condition, so why do people stay stuck in unhealthy like patterns, thought or behavior? Like what if accountability is the healthy choice to move out, why would people get stuck in the unhealthy choices?
Well, because we're flawed and we're lazy, we have our own status quo, our own equilibrium. So that's what we know. It's what you know. Uh, and until somebody establishes another status quo, benchmarks help, they're real popular today, and accountability, you don't change. So people get stuck when they're in their private world, they're not challenged, they won't be challenged. And I mentioned narcissism because there is a lot of people who are deceiving, lying, and manipulating to themselves and to others. If that's a little world that you can create, and we all know these people, they're right out there, they're parading it, they're acting like they're special, and we're in an election season. And the reality is that we don't get better without, uh, you know, somebody interrupting what is and suggesting this is a little better.
Interesting. Yeah, what's interesting when you talk about that is, so I've been in recovery for a number of years in my life, and I have a friend who came on the podcast, and he started a company at one point, and they defined the opposite of addiction not as sobriety but as community. And they did so because they said, hey, in my addiction I isolate, I go into my world, there is no accountability, I am a narcissist, I do what I want to do, which lines up and tracks with me. Outside of that, once I start to connect in community, I actually can start to get healthy, I can start to get honest, I can start to have those benchmarks. I don't know how you think about that, but that was something when you were speaking about what that is, and like, hey, if I get stuck because I'm stuck in my own head and only dealing with me, I get healthy because I'm starting to connect with other people, right? And become accountable, more outward focused.
Yeah, somebody said that health is happens when you don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together, in more modern language, when you fellowship, community, when you confess your weaknesses one to another. If you're a 12-step person, you follow the big book, you know exactly what that means. If you don't, chat GPT that. There's a whole bunch of principles, since we're talking about leadership, that point to exactly what you're saying, which is that community where you're accountable to a certain set of principles probably ensures you're going to improve, because the three men I'm accountable to will come to my garage, will close the garage door. This is not dramatic, it's real. They're pastors, two of which names you would know. And first, I don't want Rebecca calling them because I don't want them showing up. And two, it would hurt, physically hurt. And I'm just, I'm a hedonist, not a stoic guy. So I don't want to hurt. I don't want pain. I run from pain. So when I say hedonist, I mean that in the most evangelical of terms. I'm quoting John Piper just so that we're all cool and I don't offend anybody. But of course, now you guys have to help me with this. If I could turn the question, we want people to talk about us. So do we say things that are like a little bit on the razor's edge so that people go, what did he mean by hedonist and Piper? He wrote a book in the, okay. So, or do I just am I doing well, staying in my place? And
You're doing good. You're doing
You're
really well.
rocking.
You're doing well. I
just
would
want to
say,
Keep it up.
it's interesting. Okay, so let's just go here for a minute, because I agree that I think accountability can be really helpful, right? And connection with people can be a bridge and an opportunity towards results, performance, transformation, right? I do believe that. And the only caveat I would say, Steve, that I've experienced just from my own story is the level and extent to which I'm actually honest about my current reality is the level and extent to which I can embrace that accountability with somebody else. Meaning, if I'm not actually willing to be honest, the accountability doesn't matter for crap, right? And I say this because in my journey, I was accountable with the Air Bunnies, for those who are listening, for years of my life, right? For 28 years, I was accountable, but I wasn't actually accountable. I was accountable to what I wanted to be accountable to. So I was like, hey, if I'm accountable to 97% of my life, that's pretty good. The 3% that I didn't want to be accountable to was actually the least healthy part of my life. So I can't get healthy if I'm not willing to be fully transparent. So it's hindered, right, by how I actually leverage that accountability.
yeah. So I think the meetings, since I facilitated a couple, go something like, my name's Steve and I'm an alcoholic or drug user, or in my case, a sinner, or a luster or a greeter, not a greeter at Walmart. Okay. Not to mention,
You
what
could
do
be
you?
in recovery from that too. There's bad experience. You don't know. You
Thank
don't
you.
know. That
Yeah.
could
Thanks.
be a real thing.
Take
Yeah.
care.
You're welcome.
Thank the Asians catching up. It's lunchtime, but no, you cannot. You can't make your own benchmarks up. So in a chemical dependency case, there's the 12 steps. We don't need to repeat them here. They're easily findable and fact checked, but you're accountable to those and you work through those. Or if you're a faith person, there's not ethics but principles. So you don't get to define them, or it's a group of one. That's not what we're talking about. You get to belong to a sense of community. You get to participate in the community, and you're held accountable. If it's leadership, it could be family of origin, family of procreation. You guys have kids and wives. I do too. We're a little ahead of schedule because they're older. Or corporate family, an organization, you still have an ethos, a community, benchmarks that you're going to agree to, or accountability. So you definitely, Taylor, don't get to make up your own, or you have a team of one, and you're just a loser. So there you go. There's your sound bite.
No, I like it. I like it. I see it as for kind of like practical reasons, right? For people going, how would I, if I'm stuck, maybe how would I do this? I would say, hey, you know, get current with yourself in your current reality. What am I actually going through? What's actually real for me? And then, hey, what is my vision? And do my goals and my benchmarks align with my vision? So you might even say, hey, wherever you're at currently has been the vision for yourself up until now, right? Because you created it, right?
So we're all doctors. You two are doctors. Everybody listening is doctors. You're in your car in Mississippi. You're up in the Northwest in your condo overlooking the sound, wherever you are on the planet. Okay. Maybe you're one of those astronauts that's stuck in outer space and can't get home. Am I digressing? I mean, that's not a leadership issue. We can't get them home. They work for the government. They got a pension, so we can just forget about it until February. I'm not complaining. However, uh, but no. So I think you make a perfect point, and I think we should pay attention to that in our personal lives and our personal lives and our private lives. Our personal lives. Again, put that. Dr. Steve.
The sound
Personal,
bites are
yeah,
flowing. Yeah.
personal, professional.
The author of I can't remember the name of the author right now, but the book was called Dopamine Nation. Basically said at one point that the recovery and I think you could take it maybe even a step deeper and just say being a healthy person really starts with truth. I get into deep trouble as a person, as a leader, when I, whether accidentally or intentionally, lie to myself. When I am untruthful with me, that begins the cascade of all of the other misbehaving or poor thinking or what have you that comes next. I think that I resonate with what you two are saying in a significant way, that when I reflect on, particularly in the leadership of other people, when I'm not leading myself well, it creates all kinds of disruption for the people that I'm attempting to lead. And what I'd love to do, Steve, is get your kind of definition, your sort of one or two sentence perspective on what leadership actually is. And this is something we try to ask all of our guests because Taylor and I are really we're this is a gigantic research project, right? On what is this thing leadership and how does it function? And so we would really love to hear you frame that up for us. And then we can, I think, really dive into how you have worked that definition through, the corporate family, through the deck and some of the other work that you do through Lead On University.
So some of the best lessons in leadership I learned were from horrific leaders. And people that are listening, you guys are nodding yes. Some of the best leadership lessons are from some real losers. So that's number one. Number two, and I got a couple of thoughts going on, which is not uncommon in my brain. You don't get to define your own truth. I'm just sorry. So here comes one of your sound bites for your social media. Truth with a capital T is not something you get to define. It is not what you want it to be. It's not what you want it to be on a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday. You do not, it's not truth by this very definition. but I don't get into philosophy right now. I just want to say you can't define it. So once truth is defined and benchmarks are defined and accountability is there and we have community, which Taylor brought up, community saved his life. Community saves all of our lives. Okay. It doesn't matter what his flaw or mine is. Community saved me and him. We could go into a whole 3 podcasts about that. You're perfect, Brad. So we're just going to leave you out of that discussion. So
Just
yeah.
as long as that's clear.
So leadership, everybody's a leader. Everybody leads. Okay. That's something we wrote a long time ago. So what leadership is all about influencing. So we want to be productive influencers. I want to be a leader. So I have a finite, my team hates this. I have a finite number of holidays left. So they are like, you're taking Christmas and you're morbid. What look, if you take 80 years and you go baseball, we're almost at that time of the season. Hang with me, Taylor. And I have rounded third base. Now I got to tell you, I don't want to think too long about that or it's going to make me sleepy. All right. If I look at you two knuckleheads by the same measure, if every 90 feet is 20 years, you haven't made it to second base. Stay with me. We're not in high school. You guys are looking for a double, and I'm looking for a home. Okay. So where's he going with this? Leadership. I want to leave a mark, a watermark. I want to leave. So I want to influence in a way where everybody knows what I did wrong because that's what people like to remember. But I want to leave a mark. I want to influence in a way. So again, whether that's an individual, a couple, a personal family, a corporate family, there's different benchmarks, there's different objectives, but I want to leave a mark. And that's all done by my influence, which, by the way, back in the day when I was your guys' age, I was pretty narcissistic. I was pretty self indulgent. I pretty much, and I went to seminary. I mean, I can't say I was an addict, or I can't say I didn't know the Lord, or I can't say I knew all of that from a very young age. I did all of that, and I still was a pretty flawed guy. 43 years, Rebecca can tell you, he wasn't the guy he is today. There was a moment I had to decide, am I going to be that guy or am I going to be that guy? I think we all had that moment. So I decided to be that guy. Okay. And I'm not the same guy. And it took a lot of work, a lot of therapy. Okay. A lot of mentoring, but influence. Again, I can get more specific and maybe for another day, depending on which family we're talking about. I think we're focusing on the corporate family, the organizational family, work family. That has certain specific benchmarks that we want to meet. But that's how I would answer that question and kind of put a period on it.
Perfect. Wonderful. Something that throws me off, and you and I have discussed this a little bit, is putting corporate and family together. I'm like, whoa, 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 wait a second. What do you mean, Steve? I'm supposed to keep family in this building and I'm supposed to keep, and these are compartments. And it's like, I turn this one, that's help me understand corporate family.
Yes. So boundaries are important. So what's a boundary? So we'll go back to 84 and give Townsend and Cloud a little love because they're, I'm going to say they're my peers. They're a little bit older than me, but boundaries are simply put, infographic, relational property lines. Very, very important. So I'm going to tell you a story. I've edited the stories because I wanted this to be serious, but I have to tell a couple. I'm in the Twin Cities. I'm in a boardroom. I got 8 executive team members around me. I got my books on the table. And this CEO, who I thought I had good rapport with, thought he would, blow me out of the water by saying just what you did. Family, business, no place or time for this. This is just ridiculous. So as he pontificated because he could, he was signing everybody's checks, including mine. I reached across for the Sharpie in the middle and I took the book cover. I should have it in front of me, Corporate Family Matters. And I simply put a big X through family. And I just held it like this, like now, after this interview, I would. And he says, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I just recovered the book for you. I said, for all of us here, corporate family does matter. And for you, sir, corporate matters. We don't have to do family. And I influenced the whole group to the point my contract was not renewed. But Wilke being Wilke, I had to make the point. So, of course, corporate family matters. You're talking to a clinician who was born into a family of procreate. I was born into a family of origin. I should get it at this point in my career. I'll get them straight. Family of origin. Then we make our families. All three of us are part of that. And then there's corporate family we work in. Okay. So let's not get weird and act like we're trying to build some commune deep in the Utah or New Mexico desert. It's not what we're talking about. And we just live in a world. Okay. We're sensible people. And that's what we mean. So I think it does fit. It has to fit because that's my model. And that's what I published. That's the truth.
Systems. Let's do the same. Take me through the same process with systems, right? I'm thinking, what do systems have to do with families and organizations? How is that a system?
Look,
and I know that that's a whole podcast.
Where are you getting these questions from? Yeah, you guys, this is like ordination again.
You're
I
welcome.
don't know.
Yeah.
I got Motrin behind me. I'm gonna need Motrin. You guys are hammering me here. I'm sweating. I haven't had breakfast yet. Okay, it's a good question. So, cybernetics, fancy engineering, hard science word for systems, evolves out of psychoanalysis back 100 years ago. And so we get family systems, when you study psychology and its methods, in your master's work. And so systems comes from a few parts banging around each other and having an impact or an outcome. So that's very simplified. And the physics and the engineering people go, wow, dude, you took my whole career and just like really just melted ice cream all over it. The point is that I don't think I have to work too hard to describe yet again that the system you and I and Taylor were born into, or the family of origin, had blessings and burdens. Okay. Then we go and make our own and say, we're never repeating that crap again. And we do. Oh, I'm him. Oh, I'm her. Okay. And we do. Now, some of us repeat it perpetually. It's a good thing we believe in marriage, but 4 or 5 times isn't good for the kids. I'm not being funny. I'm being real. And then there's the corporate family piece to it. So the system comes from the simple fact that whatever family you want to talk about, we can talk about the fact that we got a bunch of individuals that are flawed, lazy, yet redeemable, that are banging around like atoms, trying to become an amalgamation of something, a marriage, a family that's better than what we came from. Okay. Overcoming the burdens, trying to leave more blessings than we do burdens, or in the corporate sense, trying to be a productive, profitable, sustained corporate family organization. So I think family absolutely applies my world. And I think that systems also applies because it makes sense of a lot of questions and answers that people raise and need.
That's so insightful.
It is.
And it's
really
clear.
Good. Yeah. Love it. Well,
there's a whole bunch of professionals who don't think it's so insightful and clear. And so it would be great just to show them these clips and just have them, but that's just, hey, I'm the hero, my day today. That's
you are.
By the way, you can't cut that out and then go, look what Wilke thinks of himself, because he is Wilke's a narcissist. Because anyway,
that's funny. Well, believe it or not, I know we even had more. Listen, Steve, we had a bunch more questions. They were even going to get harder. I was enjoying making you sweat slightly. It's kind of, again, wow. Yeah, you did well.
I'm up to a 6 now. I got a 6 on your scale.
I can't confirm nor deny that. I can't. But tell me, if you were to leave today, so we'll definitely have to have you back and keep going through because this has been great. But if you could leave our listeners, anybody that's listening, interested in leadership development, for themselves, their team, their company, their corporate family, their personal family, if you could leave them with one thought as we're wrapping up, what would that be?
To be high performance. So whether you're a man or woman, a husband, a wife, a son or a daughter, whatever role you play, try to achieve sustainable results. Try to grow and adapt to the many, 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 I promise you, gentlemen, many dilemmas you're going to face. Where Taylor's community comes in, you will die absolutely, physically, emotionally, and spiritually die without, and you want to continue to improve over time. So I think I'd leave you with those three things, which are really are bullet points to what high performance means. So it doesn't matter how you start; it's all about how you finish. That's not mine, but that's how you finish strong. I'll tell you what. If you just somehow took about 15 or 20 words, I'm going to be your editor and producer now, and just put them together. I'm a little emotional now. We just, and maybe it's being an older guy. I got a little tear in my eye because if I could just tell you two guys, for your wife's sake and your kids' sake, these 15 or 20 words that we talked about, you brought up: community, benchmarks, accountability, truth with a capital T, all of those, man, it's passionate, it's emotional to me. And I know we got to stop here where it gets time, because that's what will help you. You guys are still, I've had my dreams. Your dreams are ahead of you. You're making them now, and you're both good guys and you're redeemable. So that's what I'd leave you with. That's the best I can give you.
No, I appreciate it. I can tell you're very passionate about that, and can tell that you love and care for people and want the best for them. So, Steve, where if our listeners are going, hey, this guy sounds interesting, which you do, and fun, and I'd like to, hear more about what you're up to. Where can they find that info?
DrSteveWilke.com, more than anybody wants or needs to know, or leadonuniversity.com. That's the corporate leadership piece. Either one of those. My email's there. I'll just tell everybody straight up. I answer emails myself. It doesn't matter how busy I am. It might take me a little time. But if there's a question, comment, or rebuttal, I want to hear it. And if I have somebody that can help you, I'm gonna connect you, because at the end of the day, that's my legacy. So thank you, guys. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for being good guys that care and that are just trying their best with what God's put in front of them to make it matter. So I applaud both of you.
Dr. Wilke, thank you. We appreciate you. We're going to have you back for part 2. Listeners, final instructions here for you. drstevewilke.com, leadonuniversity.com. Go check out those websites, explore more, learn more. There's a ton of resources there. I've been using and abusing leadonuniversity.com. Particularly love the course on conflict. So try to go get your hands on that. And guys, subscribe. Some of you aren't subscribing, right? And this is where the shame and the guilt comes in. You need to change. You need to hit that subscribe button. You need to tap the button.
Steve back to his his being a recovering Baptist right there, Brad. Don't pour on that shit.
You need to press the like button. You need to watch all of the podcasts and like them all. You need to share them all.
You have a choice.
And then come back and do it again next time. We love you guys. Thank you so much for being listeners. See you in a week.